Welcome to the Kiwimana Buzz.
Hi everyone, welcome to a special interview chat version of the Kiwimana Buzz. The Kiwimana Buzz is a beekeeping podcast where we talk about beekeeping, gardening and life. And this is episode 36, so if you want to look at the show notes, it's kiwimana.co.nz/36. And this week we have an interview with Karen Bean, who's a successful blogger all the way from Washington State in America. So let's get into the interview. Karen Bean is married to Ian and lives in the Marple Falls, which is in Washington State, not to be confused with Washington, D.C. for our overseas visitors. And she runs a beekeeping operation called Brookfield Bees and Honey, and also runs a successful blog from her off-grid farm. So hi Karen, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, yeah, we're doing good. We're good. Well, we've given the audience a bit of an overview, but take it from here and just tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, let's see. Okay, so I'm the beekeeper at Brookfield Farm Bees and Honey, where the farm itself is about 3/4 of a mile up a disused logging road near a town called Marple Falls in the state of Washington. And kind of say we're on a landlocked peninsula because you can't go north because it's a border. You can't go east because the road ends 25 miles up at a very large glaciated volcano, and you can't go west because there's an ocean there. I don't do pollination. We're kind of looking into that possibly for next year.
Yeah.
So I'm what we call a honey beekeeper. And I have bee yards that the bees never leave. They go in, they just stay there. Some of them are farms, some of them are just large gardens or large acreage where people really like bees and want to have them there. And those bee yards are all in Whatcom County, Washington, which is the county I live in.
Right, okay. Oh, that's fantastic. So you've got, how many apiaries have you got at the moment?
How many bee yards?
Yeah, bee yards, yeah, yep.
Yeah, I think I have 10. I'd have to stop and think about it. I should put in that they're all of my bees are naturally treated and antibiotic-free, which to a lot of people who are not in the United States, they'd be saying, what's so great about that? But in the U.S., the majority bees are treated with in-hive pesticides and get 2 doses of antibiotics every year.
Oh,
I don't
really?
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually, antibiotics are illegal in New Zealand, so I can see why people would be surprised by that.
Yeah, they're illegal in Europe too.
Yeah, because I think if you export the honey, but you don't export honey to Europe.
I've been asked by people to send it to Europe, my honey to Europe. It's so outrageously expensive. I just tell them, don't be silly. But I would be really surprised if the U.S. exported honey to Europe.
Yeah.
I would think that we import honey
here. They probably wouldn't allow it because of the antibiotics. I mean, yours would be fine, but the general stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And so your farm there is actually off-grid. That must provide some challenges for someone that runs a successful blog.
Well, yeah, I don't do that from the farm. To do anything on the internet, I drive either to the town of Marple Falls and park outside the local gas station, which has a Wi-Fi connection, or I drive about half an hour to another town called Dimming and go sit in the library work in the library all day. And it's actually not around here. It's not considered strange because there's so many of us in the situation where we don't have Wi-Fi, we don't have cable. For some reason, we now don't have even dial-up, but a lot of people in this county still are on dial-up.
Oh, okay.
So we all kind of like turn up at the library and do our work and just kind of chat. It's kind of like going to the office. But the oddest thing about it is that I get sometimes little notes saying, you've just disappeared. And then I'll reappear like 2 weeks later. And it's because I don't hang around. Sitting in a pickup truck at night in front of a gas station on a 2-lane road isn't really inspirational to go and just sit and be on the web for a long time. You kind of come in, get your work done, and go away again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why when we're talking about arranging this interview, you were saying you were going to go and sit outside the gas station at 10 o'clock at night, and I thought, oh, no, we can't do that. So
yes, I appreciated that.
That's why we called you at home. So, yeah, absolutely. Can't be having that. And so how did you get started in beekeeping, Karen?
Well, we had a fiber farm. Brookfield Farm originally was a fiber farm where we raised Shetland sheep, Jacob sheep, and cashmere goats.
Yeah.
And around the time that I started thinking, gosh, this shearing of sheep is starting to really hurt my back, a friend of my husband's, who is a beekeeper, said, let me show you my bees. And I think, really, in retrospect, what he was thinking was, let me show you my bees, and I want to put bees on your property. Yeah. But so I went out with him and looked at these bees, and I said, oh, this is so totally cool. It's like I just fell in love with the whole thing. It's like, I'm kind of a science geek, and so it's like it's science and it's nature and it's art and it's just plain luck, and it's all rolled into one, and I just thought it was wonderful. And so instead of him putting hives on the property, I went out and got 2 hives. I was lucky because because of doing all the fiber, we were selling at a market called the Seattle Fremont Market, and there was a honey guy, as we call it there, a beekeeper from the Olympic Peninsula. And I bought my hives from him, and Roy was naturally treated, antibiotic-free. So I stepped into this going, well, why would we do it any other way?
Yeah, absolutely, if you can get away with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's challenging to do it, but it's not as challenging as people think. Beekeepers in the U.S. who are kind of like into the chemicals think. Because I have a lot of friends who are also naturally treated, antibiotic-free, but unlike me, they're pollinating beekeepers. So they are, bees on the semis, moving on trucks, moving, not into organic fields, into our great American world of pesticides in the field.
Yeah.
And they have given up using chemicals and antibiotics, some because they thought it was wrong from the beginning, but others because for the simple economic reason that they aren't working. And why would they continue to spend money on something that isn't working when these essential oils, which I use and they use, are working? Yeah, absolutely. So they actually left the world of chemicals and antibiotics for an economic reason. So...
Oh, that's good, yeah. Is that because the systemic pesticides aren't working anymore for the mites?
Yeah. I mean, we're on our 4th miticide, as we call them here, in, 20 years or something like that, because the mites adapt. I mean, it's like as anybody who follows the attempted poisoning of any creature knows that if you wipe out 99.9%, you've got 1% that's now going to be resistant to that.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps continuing and continuing. So, they've got a new miticide out now, but undoubtedly the mites will become resistant to that, and they'll trot out another one. Yeah. And the antibiotics are for American foul brood.
Oh, okay.
Right, which, since you don't have them there, I assume antibiotics don't kill American foul brood. They just allow the bees to live with it.
Just prevent it spreading or getting worse.
Yeah, except that then the hives are still full of American foul brood.
Ooh, nasty.
The bacteria don't die.
Yeah.
So you have hives which have this in it, and as we all know, drones especially go hive to hive, and the workers, foragers will go into another hive to see what they can rob out if the hive gets weak. So that's American foul brood can spread that way. So people like me who don't do that kind of run the risk when you get into areas where there's a lot of other bees of the bees contracting AFB.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in New Zealand.
It's so much fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, AFB is a terrible thing. Because in New Zealand, if you get it, you actually have to destroy the hive. So
That's what we've been doing here, but I got to do this really kind of fun and exciting thing this year. which I got fed up with this whole, for 2 years I had AFB. And it was, kill the bees, burn everything, scorch the boxes. And I got fed up with that idea, it was getting frustrating. Like, this is what we've been doing for 100 years here. We can now, we can break down genetic code. What in the world? Why can't we come up with a way to deal with this other than antibiotics or kill and burn? So I went on kind of this worldwide internet search to try to find who was doing research, and I found what turned out to be the only people doing it that I could find at the University of Las Vegas. And they're isolating bacteriophages, naturally occurring bacteriophages that attack American foul brood bacteria. And so I just, I wrote them an email and said, this is so totally wonderful, and, do they work, and can I have some, kind of a little tongue-in-cheek, because I had read her paper, and it had just been presented the previous year, so obviously, in my mind, this was a work in progress. And they said, and I said, do you want some samples? And they said, yeah, we'll take samples. And a bit later, they contacted me and said, because I had said, I have these 2 hives now that have foul brood, and I'm about to kill them. And they said, do you want to put them in the field test? And I went, yes, I want to put them in the field test. Yeah. So this summer, they came up and we put these phages into these 2 hives. And I'm really happy to say that the one hive is a really bizarre story, but and wound up, by the time they got here, it didn't have AFB, which I could kind of explain that in a second. But the other one, I said it's the first time 3 people ever stood around a hive and said, oh, AFB, great, right? Yeah. And because it was just ravaged with it, right? So we went through this every 2 weeks of putting phages on and taking pictures and doing samples and all this. And the hive did well, but it still had AFB, right? But it was still laying in honey. It never died. It still had brood. It still was producing bees.
Yeah.
And at the end of this, I said, well, at least you guys learned something, and if you guys don't want to do anything, I'd like to try one last experiment. And they said, yeah, go for it. So we had been putting the phages on the AFB, and leaving all the infected brood in. So I just took all the infected brood out and burned it, but left the hive. And that hive looks like it does not have AFB. I don't want to cut a sample and send it to our bee labs in Maryland because we're going into winter here. But going into winter, it looked like a perfectly healthy hive.
Wow,
so this is really, really promising.
Yeah, that sounds good. So
it's really exciting.
They actually put the actual thing inside that hive, did they?
The phages?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had isolated them from different samples that they had been sent. They got them. I know there was one from me, there was one from Belgium, and there were other people in the U.S. who had sent them samples. And they had, there's probably a fancy word for it, but they had dehydrated them.
Yeah.
And we rehydrated them in sugar syrup. And we sprayed them, and we just sprayed this stuff onto the frames of infected brood in the hive. Okay. So we had a control hive that had tested AFB positive. We had this hive that was clearly tested, and the second hive which got the phages.
Yeah. And
then we had a third hive that did not have AFB that we put phages on. So yes, it was really exciting to be part of it, but it's really promising that this hive is going into winter looking clean.
Wow.
So, yeah. So touch wood.
Yeah. Good luck with it. How long ago was this?
Oh, this was we stopped spraying the phages on it in August.
Okay. And you call it, is it sages, is it?
Yeah, they're bacteriophages, Phages.
Okay.
Yeah, and the lead researcher, so I think I should plug her, is Dr. Penny Amy out of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just it's just so wonderful that they're pursuing this. The funniest place that they found these, they were like taking wax from everything, right? And the funniest place they found the phages was in a tube of lip balm. And that's because in the U.S., there's a lot of beeswax products all over the world, right?
Yeah.
But in the U.S., most of those beeswax products have American foul brood in them because it's in the wax.
Yeah, exactly. What's everywhere.
And then the wax is processed and used,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so along with, a bit of AFB bacteria, they found, these little bacteriophages that were happily, killing and, I guess, consuming the bacteria.
Yeah, and that's,
I was really happy to be part of that, but I was just totally jazzed that it looks like it can work, and that they were working on something that is naturally occurring.
Yeah.
That can attack American foul brood.
Yeah.
Because I think probably worldwide people are really done with, a little tired of killing their bees and burning everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's used worldwide, you could probably eventually get rid of it, couldn't you, possibly?
Well, yeah. And it was interesting, just that these things naturally exist. So I had heard years ago of people saying, well, I don't use chemicals, and if I get AFB, I just isolate the hive and it's okay. And I'm like, no, that wouldn't work. But apparently this may have been working for them.
Yeah, well, as long as it doesn't get weak and all the neighbours' hives rob it out.
Yeah, but that's what they were doing, is they were isolating them away from anybody else's hives.
Yeah, true.
But so there may have been this kind of like an old wives' tale that actually may have had, as usual, a degree of truth in it that people hadn't looked at. So I think it's all very exciting.
Oh, that is exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
I just went way off topic with you. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's what it's all about on this place, I tell you. No, I mean, that's a perfect example, everyone out there listening, that why you don't feed your bees honey from the supermarket, because you just don't know where it come from, do you?
Yeah, or even from anybody else's hives.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just because even if, a friend of mine said, well, I could feed my bees honey from your hives, and I said, I wouldn't suggest it, because I have hives in agricultural areas.
Yeah.
Where there's other bees around. You don't know what my bees have brought back. It's just bad, in my view, it's just bad practice to feed bees honey from any hive other than your own.
Yeah, exactly. And so how are your bees going at the moment, other than those ones?
Oh, they're doing great.
Yeah.
It was a good year because except for those two hives that went into the program, I am happy to say that AFB did not rear its head again this year. And we've just had an amazingly good year here in this corner of what we call the Puget Sound area, which is kind of like Seattle North, on this side of the Cascades, which is the mountain range, of course, the huge mountain range that Baker's in. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we could all do with another year like this. I mean, it was just, the weather was perfect. We had enough rain, we had enough sun, and everybody just pulled in tons of honey, and the bees did really, really well. All the new beekeepers are saying, hey, this is really easy. And we're going, no, it's not.
Yeah, get through 5 years and then say that.
Yeah.
Every season is different, isn't
it? We had a phenomenal year. It was really great. And
so did you used Modaway quick strips this season?
I did this year. I alternate. I do my and the alternation comes from when I had sheep. Well, I still have goats. I have pack goats.
Yeah.
But when you treat for lice or worms, you don't use the same. Well, with them it's chemicals. You don't use the same chemicals every year because the lice and the worms will get used to it. So
yeah.
I said, okay, well, let's just take this theory and just move it on into bees. So this year I used Midaway Quick Strips, which seemed to do really well. I've used them 2 years ago. And then on the alternate years, and I'm going to forget what it's called, but it's a time oil-based treatment that comes in a blue tub.
Oh, a blue tub.
It's not one of the Appy somethings, and everybody wants to be Appy, so I never can remember the name.
Well, the one we use is Epilofarb, but there's another one. I think it's Epi. Guard, is it?
That could be it. Yeah, the ones that you're using, the little green ones,
yeah,
I call them, they don't work that well here because, I think you have better weather than, well, everybody has better weather than we do. But I think there's a line on it that says, do not use when the ambient temperatures are less than 60 degrees. And it's like, but don't use it when there's honey on the hive. And it's like, that's the height of summer around here is 60 degrees.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's,
so we're often treating, going into winter where, or fall even, and it's, it's already in the 50s. So the Mite-Away quick strips work because you can get them down into the hive, and sadly, for the name that I'm forgetting of the thymol one in the blue tub, it's made initially to put on top, like the Apivir, like the green wafers, but
is it like a tray that you pull the top off, and it's kind of like a jelly?
Yeah, so if you buy it in single units, it does that. But if you're running, I run about 80 hives, so I get they sell it in large quantities in a blue tub, and you put it on a card and put it in.
I think that's Apiguard, but we'll check that and we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that one is that although we'll call it Apiguard for this reason because I can't think of the name, although it was made to put on top. Randy Oliver, good, I could remember his name all of a sudden, did this test and ran a bunch of tests. He's I think, scientificbeekeeping.com, and came
website.
up with using a half a dose, but putting it down in between the brood boxes.
Yeah.
And getting good results. So that's what I do, because again, if you put it up on top, it's never going to get to them. The bees aren't traveling by the time we go into that sort of treatment here.
Yeah.
We've had a really, really nice October, but normally it would have normally by this time had been raining straight for 2 weeks here.
Yeah, you get a lot of rain in Seattle, don't you? Because I follow Rusty's website, and she says there was a lot of rain there apparently. I think she's near Seattle somewhere.
Yeah, we get rain, and then up this area, up river from our closest town that would be kind of like just north of 90 miles north of Seattle is Bellingham, and that's like the closest city, and they get rain like Seattle, and then up here, which is 25 miles upriver, we get snow.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah,
that's a whole different game.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of it's interesting because there's literally one place where you come around a corner on the Mount Baker Highway and the weather changes.
Yeah,
and it's just because of all the mountain patterns and the winds coming in from the ocean. But yeah, so I do that in the fall, and then I also feed they get 3 weeks. They get essential oils for 3 weeks in the fall after the honey comes off.
And what else do you use?
I use lemongrass, which is, I think, really an attractant because it also smells like queen pheromone to them. I think that's
it does. Yeah.
Just in there to say, get up here, look at this. Thyme oil, tea tree oil, and spearmint.
And the tea tree oil, that's from New Zealand?
You know what? I'd have to go look at the bottle. I bet it is.
We'll just assume it is because you're trying to support us, so... That's fantastic. Yeah, because I know Don the Fat Bee Man uses it as well. So
yeah, it had become very popular here, and I'd read about it, and I said, well, okay, and I had been using more spearmint, and so this one thing, everything's true on the internet, isn't it? Said you could replace part of the spearmint with tea
my
tree.
blog and your blog. Yeah. I was going to say only what's on my blog and your blog, Karen. That's it. Everything else is just lies.
And Emily's.
No, you've got to check your sources, don't you? Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the thing is that in anything that you pick up from somebody or from something off the web is just to try it on like a hive or two first.
Yeah, just see how it works for you. Because the other thing, it's all about local stuff, because things might work where the person is, but not where you are.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, people will say, well, this works really well in Arizona. And I'm like looking at them going, does this look anything like Arizona up here?
Yeah, they don't get a lot of snow in Arizona, do they?
Well, in the mountains, they actually do.
Oh, okay.
They do in the mountains, but down on the flats, no. And then it's a completely different, flora and fauna,
Yeah.
in their mountains. It's, so far away. But, the first time that I ever went from a solid bottom board to screen only, I did it on 2 hives, and I was sure I was going to kill both of them.
Yeah. And they're okay.
But they did really well, and so promptly the next year I got rid of every solid bottom board I had.
Yeah, I think
operate off the screens.
Yeah, I think they work really well in winter because it gives them gives a bit of ventilation to get rid of that hot air. So rather than condensating.
Well, I think here even more rain gets into everything here.
Yeah.
I mean, in everything. I mean, the joke is that if you eliminated the moss on the trees, it wouldn't be quite as green in the state of Washington. It gets into houses, it gets into cars, everything. So it gets into hives.
Yeah.
And that open mesh on the bottom, and of course ventilation on the top, obviously, but it can't collect on the bottom board. Water cannot collect.
Yeah,
and so you eliminate that problem.
You don't have a big puddle on the bottom.
Yeah, and then a puddle with lots of little pieces of wax and dead bees and everything else, to create kind of like a little mushy marsh down.
Yeah, absolutely. So what excites you about bees and beekeeping, Karen?
Golly, so much.
Within 5 minutes.
Yeah, right. Within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't warn you about that, did I? That I tend to go on and on.
You talk as long as you like. It's fine.
Yeah, I think for me, what I really love about it is it's kind of like the science of it.
Yeah.
I really, really love the science of it. How quickly things can change, the dynamics within the hive, how everything from temperature to barometric pressure affects them. Everything moves so fast in the world of insects, unlike the world of mammals, that you can see really dramatic changes for better or for worse. And I just find that absolutely fascinating.
They're definitely the canary in the coal mine, as they say, aren't they? You can tell a lot from an insect.
So much, but even for me, it's even just beyond that. It's just that it's like nature and fast forward, because I spent most of my life around mammals. Yeah, and not this close. I mean, insects are always around. It's the age of insects and all that, but none of us, unless you're into beekeeping, really, interface with insects as much as we do as beekeepers on a regular basis. And just seeing that dynamics is I just find that just amazing. I also like seeing all the different bees, all the little sisters in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what's one thing you wish you knew now before you started beekeeping?
Oh, like what do I wish I had known when I started?
Yeah.
Oh, if I could go back and start all over again, I would be in 8-frame hives on small cell foundation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's too late now to regress. What a headache that would be. But I'd still be. I keep everything in I guess they're called mediums everywhere else. We call them westerns, and I'd still stay with that. But I'd be in 8-frame hives.
Just make them lighter.
Yeah, lighter. I mean, I can lift a fair amount, but I'm not getting any younger, and the back's not getting any better.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, my bees never really spend a lot of time out on frames 1 and 10. They'll fill them up in the summer during a honey flow, but in the winter, I actually use these follower boards and things like that over there because it's a waste. It's a waste of honey to keep it over there for them. They'll never get there. They'll never see it.
They don't make it over there in the winter chill?
No. But I also run dark bees. I don't run Italians. I don't know what everybody's got in different parts of the world, but the biggest, most popular bee here in the States are Italians, right?
Yeah.
Which are huge build-up, huge hives, and one can understand why pollinating beekeepers would want them, because in February you can get these things up into huge masses, so when they hit the almonds, you can make some money. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, the Pacific Northwest there's no resemblance to Italy. I mean, it's, you know, summer, you're still wearing wool around here. So the Italians tend to keep eating and keep having babies. That's the big buildup.
Yeah.
So I'm not very partial to them. So I run New World Carniolans. I don't know if you guys want.
Yeah, we do. We've got one guy in the North Island that's breeding Carnelian queens.
Yeah, I like them, and I have what we call Russians, and I think the rest of the world calls Primorsky bees.
Yeah.
And then ferals, because this area had a lot of beekeeping for a lot of years, so a lot of bees went feral out here, because if you want a cavity, there's nothing like a big leaf maple with a huge hole in it or a cedar with a huge hole in it.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of feral bees still exist up here. So my preference when I breed queens and when I select which ones I want are always for the really dark bees.
Yeah.
And they tend to cluster really small in the winter.
Is it true that they use less food over winter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's also true that they do not build up all that fast.
Oh, okay, 'cause I heard they build it really fast. That's why they're prone to swarming.
No, they don't build up fast, but they do love to swarm. The Russians do. The New World Carniolans don't. The Russians, it's just something about them that they just really like to constantly make queen cells.
Yeah.
So if you don't stay ahead of them, if they get anywhere near honeybound, they're off and running. So it's just, you just don't let them get honeybound.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep controlling them.
Yeah, you've got to work, and it's true. It's not as true of the New World Carniolans, but you have to work the New World Carniolans more than you would work Italians.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just going back to that thing about the frames 1 and 10 not being used. I don't know if you listened to Kevin Ingram's BK Corner podcast.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Oh, because his latest one, episode 44, he mentions he's been reading the Langstreth book, and what he used to do was, saying to Reverend Langstreth, he used to do a tunnel through the frames, through the actual foundation for winter, so that actual bees can walk through the tunnel to get to the other frames.
I bet he's in deep. Full-size boxes.
They probably are.
I don't think I have to do that, because since I'm in what westerns, mediums, right, shorter boxes, my bees actually have a ready-made tunnel.
Oh, okay.
Every time the boxes connect, there's space for them to move through. Yeah, that was not a lot of people, but there was talk about that for a while here, and I think it was done a number of decades ago.
Yeah.
And then it kind of lost favor. But my girls tend to travel by coming up, and then they can, in between the boxes in the mediums, they can move back and forth.
Yeah.
Because I overwinter in, my nukes overwinter in 3 boxes.
Oh, okay.
My other ones overwinter in 4 to 5 boxes.
Oh,
so they've got a lot of space to move around in.
Yeah.
But that's, for deeps, I can see that, because I could see bees getting totally stuck in the middle of a deep and wanting to move.
Yeah, I think the Langstreth deeps were actually huge. They're actually bigger than the ones we're using today, I believe. They're like massive things.
Yeah, they're all too big in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started, it was like, okay, and now just pick up this box and do this, and I'm like, I can't lift the box.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go get the husband, which wasn't very functional.
No. I mean, we get that because we sell beekeeping supplies, and people, often come along and they go, "Oh, I want full size boxes, for everything." And the next year they come along and buy a lot of 3/4 boxes.
Yeah, I mean,
it just kills you.
For me, they're easier to handle, and if one size fits all, you never have the problem of, oh look, I need, oh look, it's gone queenless. Quick, I need some eggs. Oh, here's some eggs. I'll put them over. Everything's the same size. you know?
Yeah, so make them all the same size when you're starting out. That's probably a good bit of advice there.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I absolutely think it's so much easier. And there's one thing I would have done, wish I'd known when I started, because I did start in deeps.
Yeah.
And by the second year, I had my husband, I had them, you know, using Queen Exclusive, migrate into westerns, and then had my husband cut down every deep into a smaller box.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, that's a good idea there, because it's certainly a lot heavier when you have the foundation on the start of the season. They're a lot heavier by the end of the season, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just you know, I mean, I think that one of the things, at least here, that home beekeepers need to kind of bear in mind is that a lot of stuff that we do is not so much for the bees, but because pollinating beekeepers do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we get people up here saying, well, how much honey should I take off? You know, I have 2 hives. How much honey should I take? And I often say, well, none. You know, wait till spring. Do it in the spring when they're coming in with new nectar. Leave them their honey.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, if there's not a reason to, I mean, I tend to pull in the fall because a lot of my nukes need honey, so we equalize, and we'll pull in honey anyway, so we'll just pull it. But if someone's like not in dire need of honey for some reason at that moment, I've never understood why pull it, why take away their food right as winter begins.
Yeah, exactly. And the worst one is that people take all the food and then they try and feed them with sugar.
Yeah.
And I think, well, it's not the same, you know?
No, and no matter how many nice essential oils one puts in, it is not honey.
No.
It's not everything that they need, and we can't replicate what they need.
No.
They've made what they need.
No, exactly. We can't replicate honey, and it's not sugar water.
Yeah.
Or corn, you know, was it corn syrup oil or something?
High fructose corn syrup.
That's it?
Yeah,
you guys use that. That's crazy too, but yeah.
Oh no, that's beyond crazy, because that's actually they're now showing that that's actually detrimental to the bees' health.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, on the other side of it, just to support the pollinating beekeepers in this area, they actually need to bring in tankers. I mean, when they feed, I can go into the kitchen and mix up something, right, for 3 weeks. But, if you're running, 1,600 hives or, 10,000 hives, these are tankers that roll in. And apparently no tanker of sugar will come to Washington State.
Oh, okay.
And it's because it crystallizes here because it's so cold.
It's so cold.
So
they have to use
a lot of these guys would love not to have to do it.
Yeah. But
they're kind of confronted with until somebody figures out a way to do this, that they don't really have an option if they want to, if they're coming off and, trying to build up their bees to go to the almonds, and that's where their money is.
What about in concrete mixers?
Concrete mixers?
Yeah.
Well, I always, I've noticed that essential oils and sugars keeps it from crystallizing. So I'm like, well, why don't they just put some essential oils in there, and then that would all be done.
Absolutely, and it stops it going moldy as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I only discovered this summer during that AFB test because the solution we were using for the phages, I said, we'll just make this with tap water and no essential oils, because there's less to figure out in the post in trying to figure out what has happened with the phages. And I had some of this left over, and it crystallized. It was the first time that a cane syrup had crystallized on me.
Oh, wow.
Because no essential oils, so it crystallized. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good idea. Oh, what's the biggest issue facing beekeepers in your area at the moment?
Oh, God. It would depend on what beekeeper you talk to, really. A lot of CCD, which has gotten press left, right, and center for very good reason here. I think that there was a report that the CCD accounted for 50% of all bee losses in the United States last winter. But the people who I know haven't been hit by it. So that wouldn't be it. I think for most of the people I know, it's just on this side of the Cascades. This side of the Cascades is really wet.
Yeah.
The other side of the Cascades in Washington is incredibly dry. And I think it's simply the challenge of keeping the bees alive up here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, there's now two, and I'll mispronounce it. I've had for 10 years, but Nosema or Nosema, I've never figured out how
Yeah,
you
I think,
really
Nosema, that's the right, I think that's how you say it, yeah.
Yeah. It's, one of them can hit, we now have two in the United States.
Yeah.
We have two types of it. And one of them can hit at any time, but the traditional one hits in really wet, cold climates. So you couldn't get you can't get much more wet and cold at the same time than the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
So around here, it's just the litany of keeping them alive and enduring the weather because and getting enough of a honey crop off of them.
Yeah. Is that Nosema serrana? Is that the one?
Yeah, well, the Serrana Nosema Serrana is the one that can hit at any time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's Nosema apis is the one that is the one that hits really when you're wet and you're cold.
Yeah, that's
so I think that the biggest challenge, in my humble opinion, is improved breeding. And I think that a lot of the beekeepers would agree with that. We have a real bottleneck here in breeding in the United States. Except for, kind of 3 instances, we stopped importing bees into this country in, I think, the 1930s.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of the queens that are produced, they all go back to queen mothers from that time.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a lot of inbreeding, and then we brought the Russians in. The Russians came in, and they were put onto an island off of Louisiana at first to make sure that they didn't have any diseases they could bring with them. And so the Russians came in, and then Sue Colby started bringing in semen and eggs, things like this, and to slowly develop the New World Carneolans. And she's bringing in semen and eggs now from the Caucasus, so we're getting more Caucasian in some of our bees now as well. And then we had the silliness where we brought in bees from Australia, which was really stupid. Sorry. Nothing personal about Australia.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm not from Australia, so that's fine. You can say what you like.
But it was just very silly, to bring in animals with no quarantine.
Yeah.
Which there wasn't. And Australia has its own problems, and Lord knows we all share problems anyway. And at that time, I don't know if they do yet, but Australia had no varroa.
They still don't.
So, why bring an animal in to an area that is, full of varroa that has no resistance?
Yeah, they won't survive long, will they?
So, I mean, the logic of that one eluded me. But we really do have this problem here of that we're running on a very narrow genetic stock.
Yeah.
Of all the queens and thus all the bees. So I think that I would say that the biggest problem confronting breeders is improving genetic stock. We're lucky here. Well, Sue Colby now lives up here, but we also have a bee breeder just about 60 miles south of me who's been working very hard on developing a bee for this area.
Oh, okay.
And he's been using semen. He does artificial insemination and open breeding, and he's been using semen and things from different bee researchers all over the United States.
Oh, sounds promising. Yeah.
Sorry?
That sounds good. Sounds a good idea.
Yeah, it's really great, and the deal is that you have to report back in to him.
Yeah.
You don't just get a queen and never say anything again. He expects you actually to give him some information about what's going on, and they all have designated numbers, and it's very complicated, but it's a very wonderful thing he's doing.
Yeah, I suppose he's trying to keep track of how they're doing and what the results are getting. That's good.
Yeah, and which lines are showing promise and which lines are just falling flat on their face, because in any sort of breeding, not everyone's a winner.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And so what's your beekeeping plans for next season then? Just more of the same?
I assume you mean the next sunny season.
Yeah, next sunny season, yeah. Got to plan these things, Karen.
I'm sorry?
You got to plan these things next season.
Right. I know for the next season, I think it's building stuff while it snows outside. But I think next year it's more the same. I mean, I would. My goal is to get up to, I would say 100 hives, which means, of course, more than 100 because you're always fluctuating up and down.
Yeah.
But I want to get to 100 and kind of stay at 100, because, as I said, I'm not getting any younger, and that just seems like a doable number. And more than that, it's starting to get a bit too into the world of forklifts and things like that.
Yeah.
Which I really don't wish to enter the world of forklifts.
No.
But I think just continuing to, I mean, I breed bee queens of my own, and continuing that, because there's, I'm so far upriver in some of my bee yards that nobody's as insane enough to try to keep bees up here.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a lock on the open breeding up here between my bee yards, and continue to try and just work on my own little way of finding the right queens that can survive and produce honey in our area.
Yeah.
And overwinter really well. And just increase it and just really just have fun with the bees. On the business side, we're going to look into the, I'm going to run the numbers to see if micropollination would work for us.
Yeah, yeah.
It's something that I've never jumped up and down over, but my husband's kind of interested in it, and so I say, well, if you want to go out in the middle of the night and move bees around,
yeah,
good, because I'd rather be in bed.
Exactly. Here's the keys to the truck.
Exactly. Yeah. Have a nice time. Let me know where I'm supposed to go check them tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard work, isn't it, moving the bees at night, especially if there's a lot of boxes on them.
Yeah, I am not a late night person, but he is, so it would work out quite nicely, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And there's some demand for it because there's a lot of small farms in this area.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't really need a semi-load of bees. They only need 6 to 8 hives to come in and pollinate and then leave again. Yeah. And also in our area, a lot of the places that need pollination, like with blueberry fields here. A lot of we're raspberry and blueberry city up here in Whatcom County. But the frightening thing is that there's cornfields right next to them.
Oh, okay.
So you can't plonk down bees in the area because almost every piece of corn in the United States has neonicotinoids in them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think all the corn has got neonicotinoids now, isn't it? So that's risky.
Well, not all, because we have some organic corn people, and we have people raising corns actually in Whatcom County that are, like, I guess they call them historic corns. Probably my friend will kill me because there's probably a fancy word for that. But
is it heirloom? They call it.
Yeah, heirloom corn. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And so there's small holdings that are doing it without neonicotinoids, and we have a lot of organic farms in the county.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But the big holdings of corn, when you see them, they're corn you don't want to put your bees near.
No, because they don't like. Yeah, they can wipe out a lot of hives, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, we finally figured out. I had a girlfriend down in one area, and we couldn't figure out what had happened. And then when the information about the neonicotinoids came out, it was like, oh, well, now we know what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's good. Well, thanks heaps for coming along, Karen, and thanks for staying up late for us. You get some good bits of information there, so I'll have to listen back to this again. It's awesome.
Well, it's been fun. I guess I should have warned you, though. They tend to go on and on and on.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's perfectly fine. We'll have to get you back on again another time to give us some more wisdom. So,
well, it's been a real pleasure, and I really do love your podcast. They're great fun to listen to.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. And so
it's just that when I tend to collect them because on those every 2 weeks when I finally get to the library, that's when I download all the podcasts at once.
Yeah, I can see all the locals sitting there downloading all the podcasts together.
There you go. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, me too. And so what's the best way for listeners to get in touch with you or visit your blog? Just visit your blog site?
The blog or, either of my emails. And I think my blogs both have, the links to the websites on them.
Yeah, and I'll add that to the show notes. For everyone out there, this is kiwimana.co.nz/36, and I'll put all the links to Karen's blog and Karen's Facebook page as well. So yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's been good to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure, and have a lovely day.
Well, you have a lovely night, and
Okay, you take care. Bye-bye.
Will you stay on the line there, and I'll just end the show. So thanks for coming, and thanks for listening, guys, and I really appreciate it. We'll just end the show here.